Carolyn Cassio, a licensed pilot flying a light plane with one passenger aboard, was clearly seen by two employees of the airport at Grand Turk Island. But the airport manager could not get the pilot to answer her radio signal. Both the airport manager and an employee watched as the plane circled overhead, easily within their visual range. Time after time, the airport manager keyed the microphone. There was no response, but both the startled airport manager and the employee heard the mic on the plane key open, and what they heard sent chills up their spines.
I don't understand it. This should be Grand Turk, but there's nothing there. It's the right place on the map and the right shape, but this island is uninhabited. No buildings, no landing strip, nothing. It has to be Grand Turk, but it's just not there.
The airport manager and her employee could only watch helplessly as the totally confused pilot banked the aircraft and flew out of sight, never to be heard from again. Could it be that Carolyn Cassio had somehow flown across that thin membrane of dimension and time and actually saw Grand Turk Island as it was in some pristine past? Do the magnetic fluctuations in the area provide some scientific clues to these odd and unexplainable anomalies? Will the Bermuda Triangle finally give up some hints as to what has caused decades of strange disappearances? Will investigators at last find something tangible to help explain the long list of missing ships, planes, and people? Or will we just add one more category to the missing list, missing time? So far, several explanations have been advanced to try and account for the strange disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. Mini wormholes, power from the lost city of Atlantis, UFOs and secret military experiments have all been suggested, but none of these solutions account for the kind of frightening event experienced by Chuck Wakely. Chuck was a private pilot on a charter for Sunline Aviation in Miami. He had completed his run to Nassau and was heading back to Miami. The sky, he said, was perfectly clear. Suddenly, he was surrounded by an intense greenish light. So powerful, in fact, that he could no longer see the outside of the plane.
My instruments started malfunctioning, so bad I thought they were going to bust apart. By then, the aircraft was glowing so intensely I couldn't see the horizon at all, or even the moon and the stars. Then, bingo, the glow was gone and everything was right normal again.
Chuck Wakely is not the only pilot to encounter this murky haze. There have been others with even more bizarre implications.
The Miami Tower was called for a time check. The instrument panel clock was right on. They were 20 minutes out and right on schedule. Later, the co-pilot would remember seeing a strange green mist that enveloped the aircraft, but otherwise everything was completely normal. But in the Miami Tower, the air traffic controller was jolted when the blip of the approaching Flight 727 suddenly vanished from the radar screen. The controller immediately went into emergency priority status. Within minutes, the Coast Guard Search and Rescue Squadron was in action, and the Miami airport prepared for the worst. When the flight attendant checked for any last-minute instructions, she couldn't believe she had completed her usual 10 to 12-minute cabin duties in less than 3 minutes. And the co-pilot was surprised to discover the greenish mist that enveloped the aircraft since the time check was gone, not only from about the aircraft, but from the sky itself. Precisely 10 minutes from the time Flight 727 had vanished from the radar screen, it just as suddenly and mysteriously reappeared. The complex equipment was in perfect working order, as the ongoing computer and manual scans verified. Flight 727 landed without incident, with the crew understandably curious about the emergency equipment along the runway. And they were all incredulous when told that their arrival was 10 minutes late, despite the fact that the instrument panel clock synchronized exactly with the earlier tower time check. It was now, along with every one of the crew's watches, 10 minutes slow.
Was that green fog somehow responsible for the lost 10 minutes? Or could it somehow identify the doorway into another time or another dimension? Whatever it is, the crew and passengers of Flight 727 can be grateful that all they lost was 10 minutes. Captain Don Henry's terrifying encounter with the green fog resulted in a much bigger loss.
We were coming back from Puerto Rico on the good news, with a tow of 2,500 ton on 1,000 feet of 4-inch hawser. I was enjoying some downtime in my cabin when the electric started acting up. We checked the whole system, generators, breakers, shunts, just fine. Nothing wrong below. But topside, there weren't anything right. There was a funny-looking fog, I guess you'd call it, kind of oozing all over the barge. I figured I'd better take another good look inside, and that's just about when that blow smacked into us. "25 years at sea, I never saw the likes of that squall. It come out of nowhere. All our instruments were going crazy. Compass, radio, radar, engine monitors, absolutely berserk. At first, we was just worried about losing the tow, but then we started getting worried about our own skins. We were redlined at 850, big twin 2,000-horse EMV diesels churning up green water, and we couldn't make a foot of headway. Something had a hold of us and wouldn't let go. Then, just like that, the squall was over. We set the automatic pilot to go check damage, and we hadn't lost no rigging or deck gear. But then what I saw give me goosebumps all over. A half-ton of hawser stiff-stretched after the fantail, and not a thing connected to the bitter end. When we got her hauled in, you could see there wasn't no eye splice, and the line wasn't raggedy like it had parted. No, sir. Looked like it had been whacked off with a fire axe. The sun was out just like before, and there was a bone-aching chill in the air. Yet the rails and fittings were hot enough to give you a smart burn. We had a narrow escape from whatever took hold of us out there.
A half-ton of rope stretched out to nothing, and the barge simply gone. But gone where? Could it have sunk without leaving any debris at all? And what kind of force could hold up a half-ton hawser stretched out over the water? The mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle are so diverse that no serious evidence has yet been discovered that covers all the possibilities. Could it be that the real culprits are invaders from another world? Are secret military experiments creating the havoc? Is the power of Atlantis still somehow being felt? Or are there other explanations?
The blue holes in the ocean apparently have the quality of swallowing things that fall into them more quickly than other parts of the sea. It is a curious fact that no debris has been found from ships or planes which have disappeared in the triangle. It has even been suggested that for some reason it has been important to take ships and planes intact to somewhere else.
About once a year, some salvage crew will claim they found one of the missing TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. And the most recent one took place right off Fort Lauderdale a few years back. They said they found 3 or 4 planes together on the bottom, and that sounded really like they had found the missing Flight 19. But doing a little research, I found out that after the war, they had a lot of planes or TBMs at the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station that they had cannibalized parts off of for other planes. And they couldn't fly those planes out, so to get rid of them, they loaded them on barges at Port Everglades, took them out to sea, and shoved them overboard. And my theory is that's what the 3 or 4 planes they found off Fort Lauderdale were.
So many other unexplainable tragedies have taken place here that the area has earned an even more sinister name, the Devil's Triangle. And that brings up another important question. Are these vanishings exclusive to just this part of the world?
The strange goings-on in the Devil's Triangle are not exclusive to the Devil's Triangle. There's also an area off of the east coast of Japan called the Devil's Sea. And if you went in the center of the Devil's Triangle and you bored a hole through the center of the Earth, directly through the center of the core, you would come out in the center of the Devil's Sea. And the Devil's Sea and the Devil's Triangle are the only 2 places on Earth where the compass points to the true north, not the magnetic north.
Manson Valentine connected UFOs and magnetic fields in a story about Admiral Richard Byrd, a person who he greatly admired. When Admiral Byrd flew over the icebound South Magnetic Pole, he saw what he described as a land in the sky. It was a green, well-watered, fertile, tree-studded country. Definitely not a mirage. Later that year, Admiral Byrd was flying over the North Magnetic Pole, describing a similar scene during a live radio broadcast to the nation. He was rudely cut off. Manson believed that intense magnetic fields could open doors to other dimensions. So Admiral Byrd's land in the sky was a real and objective world where planes, ships, and even people could mysteriously disappear.
But there are those who keep searching for an explanation. Perhaps someday some other intrepid explorer will stumble into Admiral Byrd's lost world. And while it doesn't seem very likely, even the military may one day be more forthcoming about their secret experiments. Serious scientists are still trying to come to grips with the unique magnetic fluctuations that suggest minuscule wormholes might somehow be to blame. And perhaps someday we will even be able to solve the mystery of the green mist and the strange lights seen by Columbus. But until then, the solution to the terrifying phenomenon of the Bermuda Triangle remains shrouded in its own impenetrable fog.